Okay. So, hello, my name is Niclas Svenningsen. I'm working for the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. It's a long name, but it's basically United Nations Climate Change Secretariat. We are the ones that are trying to help the governments of the world to work together to combat the climate change disaster that is facing us all. So, the UN climate change is actually doing a lot of very different activities. In the past, we only looked at supporting the negotiations among governments, but now we do have the Paris Agreement since 5 years, and we are focusing also on helping the implementation of the agreement. One thing that is really important there is to get everybody on board. This is not only for governments, but it is for the private sector, for civil society, for individual citizens like you and I. So there's one agenda item in UNFCCC that we call Action for Climate Empowerment, ACE. This is about education, training, access to information, and public participation in the fight against climate change. And I believe that by informing and engaging citizens, they will also see that climate change is more than only about climate change. It has very close links to the ecological crisis, to the issue of biodiversity, to circular economy, to all these sustainable development issues that really hits us all in different ways. So this is a very important part of the work, and I think if I should highlight one thing that UNFCCC is doing, it is to help the governments and the people of the world to get this education and training, awareness and information and ability to personally engage in the fight against climate change, and thereby also contributes to solving the ecological crisis. So what I do personally on the environment is that I try my level best to walk the talk, which I think everybody would agree is not always easy. But there are a couple of things that you can do. You can, first of all, try to think about how do I impact the environment, and where do I generate a climate footprint in my case. So things you can do is about thinking about what you're eating, thinking about if you really need to drive your car everywhere, if you can take the bike or public transport instead. You can think about where you're going on vacation. I think the pandemic that we have seen now in the last couple of years is showing that we can very well, we can have our staycation, as it's called. You don't need to go to the other side of the world to find good places to visit for vacation. What you're eating is also very important. And again, I think just talking with your friends and colleagues and trying to drive the conversation forward. It's a small drop, but I'm convinced that if we're all doing our small things, that will add up to something quite big and impactful. So I think there's a lot of inspirations for what we can do, what has happened in the past, and what can happen in the future. I think, first of all, we have in the past a number of examples of people who has been courageous in pointing out that there's a problem and we need something to do. We need to do something about it. We have authors like the authors to Silent Spring, which was one of the books in the 1960s that was really drawing the attention of people to that we had an ecological crisis going on. Today, we have people like Greta Thunberg, who is saying in a very, very clear manner that we are not used to hear, maybe, that we are going in a very, very bad direction. And if we don't change, it's going to end badly. So I think this courage to speak up, even if people don't like you speak up, is very, very important and inspiring. At the same time, there are so many examples of individual actions of companies, organizations, and others, and cities and governments are actually taking very, very far-reaching and I think inspirational steps to do something about the ecological crisis. Just to give a few examples, there are a number of cities in Europe, in America, in Asia, who have now banned cars in the city centers, or saying that if you're going to drive into the city center, you need to use a clean car. That, of course, is something that sounds like a really good idea. From politicians' point of view, it's more controversial, but it's necessary. I think we see many people who are undertaking projects to clean up the oceans. They do it on their own, to start NGOs, to develop new technologies on hydrogen, and who are also protesting against ecological destructive activities, such as the Exxon pipeline in North America and others, um, let's say, fossil fuel projects that obviously does not have a place in our modern society any longer. So I think all of those are, in a way, ecological heroes that I draw inspiration from.